Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome to another video. So this is going to be a bit of an interesting one. We are serious here. We're actually going to be unironically testing penguins for the upcoming remote Duel YCS happening this weekend. And this might have been a mistake. So basically for context, I asked you guys on the community tab poll a couple of weeks ago what I should be doing for my 10k subscriber celebration, in addition to the free to enter giveaway tournament that will be held via Discord. A link to my server is in the description, by the way. But this won the poll by a fairly convincing majority, so I guess that is the fate that we have to bear right now. So I asked my friend Aberdeen, whose DB name I can't pronounce, to kind of run the gambit on several meta decks. So I ended up playing against PK, which is going to be featured in this video. I played against Bird Up, Sword Soul, and Invoked Dogmatica. And the results were pretty mixed. I'm not going to say that we won every match, but I can't say we lost every match either. The win rate was actually about like 50-50, which is better than I expected for this deck, I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I will be, of course, uploading the deck profile of this deck if you're interested in it after the YCS is finished. So that will be towards the end of the weekend or early next week. And there will be 2 matches in this video because I'm not going to lie to you, the first match was not very good. But I want to keep it in just to keep things realistic because this is not a tier 0 super threat by any means. But let's go ahead and just get started here without any further ado. So we win the RPS game number 1 here. And I should just give a forewarning that you're going to see some interesting inclusions because I tried to tune this deck to be as competitive as possible. So we're trying to do more than, set Penguin Soldier pass or even like turbo into Penguin Brave and pass. But yeah, opening hand going first is going to be Despot 1, Double Garden, Crusader Arborea, and no Penguin. So this is because I'm playing Sangam. So this is like, you can already tell, like a shell for Halka Fibrax. I am not playing Coldwing because while I am playing a fair number of bricks in this deck, I want them all to be, Takatomborgs rather than Darlingtonia Cobras. And by that I mean I want them to at least be usable if I draw them in some capacity, rather than just be completely a hindrance if I do draw them. So because the Penguins are natively cards you usually don't want to draw, like Penguin Soldier is not a card you want to draw. Usually you don't want to draw no Penguin and like Polar Penguin because they are generally your targets for like Emperor, unless like in certain hands like with Gardner, for example, where it's decent. But a lot of the times your Penguins are already bricks. So like the deck is bricky by nature, which is, fair enough. And that's why I'm not afraid to add slightly more bricks like Despot 1. And I'm also playing the Fusion Destiny package, as you probably saw by the thumbnail, to increase the power level of the deck. But at the end of the day, I want the hands to at least be somewhat playable. But anyway, speaking of playable hands, this is definitely one of them. This is a lot of really good avenues to actually get to Halka Fibrax. And there are cool end boards you can do to actually enable some of the Penguin shenanigans. So like you can turbo into Brave fairly reliably with the level 3 tuners in the deck, plus the tokens that the Auroradon produces, which are also level 3. So that helps you get into Brave. And then you get to extend the ceiling a bit more with just like the general synchro plays. And then his hand going second is going to be Torn Scales, Boots, Fusion Destiny, Kage Knight, and Nibiru. This card is going to be a thorn in our side, and I have just made a concession to lose to it. I'm not going to beat around the bush there. If we get Nibiru, we are going to likely lose if we don't draw Fusion Destiny. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and activate Royal Penguin's Garden. I do plan to nib here specifically. Like I have the option to just go Verite Pass, but I mean, 1 pop with this many engine cards in my hand and like no hand traps, which I am playing a fair number of, by the way. It's not going to be enough against a deck like PK. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and go for just like the full shebang. So yeah, we go ahead and pitch no Penguin to reduce our Emperor's level by 1 thanks to the Garden. So we can normal summon it out and then activate the effect, which chain blocks the no Penguin. And this is a mandatory trigger, so like it dodges Gamma, which is cool. But yeah, we can go ahead and summon out 2 from deck. So we're going to go and summon out Squire and Polar Penguin. I fixed my zones here because they're a bit scuffed right there, but we're just going to go and try and link summon right away and talk Fibrax. This is also one of the things I was just talking about right now, or right there. This is one of the setups where you get a spare level 3 tuner on board, so when you have the Auroradon tokens, you get an extra way into Penguin Brave, which is nice. So we're going to summon out Despot 1 from hand, of course, and then we're going to go and link off for the Auroradon, and then a resolution of the Despot 1. We are predictably going to get hit with Nibiru. You win some, you lose some. We're going to pass in this. I mean, Enforcer Pass was not going to do it against this hand anyways, especially because he top picked Imperm, so we just negated it regardless. So we're just never winning this game. He has full combo right here because he has Torn Scale and he has Kage Knight, so I just immediately decided to scoop to save time. And we're going to speed through these next couple of games really quickly as well because they are not the highest quality. So our opening hand going first in game 2 is going to be Polar Penguin, Arborea, Solemn Judgment, Fusion Destiny, and Effect Failure. So we have a lot of ways to play around hand traps this time around, or like just set up like a simpler board with more disruptions just through non-engine cards, which is nice. And then his hand is going to be Boot, Ancient Cloak, Torrent Scales, Cosmic Cyclone, and Call by the Grave. So we drew a couple of defensive cards that really actually hurt in this hand, or against this hand specifically. So I decided to just go for Fusion Destiny. I have the option to go into normal summon Polar Penguin into Almirage, because like I mentioned, I am playing Sangan, drawing the 1-of target, by the way, twice in a row. But yeah, this is like another way to get into Fiber. I think I was just kind of like jarred from the fact that I just lost to Nibiru that hard. And I'm like, okay, I'll have Enforcer, Judgment, Veiler, and then this is the interaction with Penguins right here. So Enforcer actually can pop the Polar Penguin, which triggers the effect to actually bounce a card on your opponent's field. So that's the hashtag synergy right there. Is it a very good synergy? Not particularly, but it actually comes up fairly enough, or often enough, to where it gives you an extra interruption because you get pop and you get a bounce, as well as like whatever defensives you have. So theoretically, this could be up to 4 interruptions, which is good. If I went for the full or Hcabe Fibrax combo against his no hand trap hand, this would have been like substantially better. But nonetheless, we're going to carry on here. So realistically, I should have just committed. But he draws Droplet for turn anyway. You know, what can you do? He has Cosmic for my Judgment. He has Droplet for whatever board it would have produced. And he has 2 PKs, hard drawn. On the resolution of Silent Boots, or on Summon of Silent Boots, I tried to Enforcer, because the goal was to go and pop Torrent Scales and then pop Polar Penguin, and then Polar Penguin to bounce the Silent Boots. And that would have, I think, been enough, actually, had he not had Droplet. Granted, he could have just called by the grave the Polar Penguin anyways, which would have not been the greatest. Although, even if he did that, he didn't have another way to actually get level 3 onto the board at that point, provided, again, he didn't have the Droplet. So, like, just his non-ninja cards were enough to really out this current situation. Yeah, which, that's part of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? So I'm not going to sugarcoat things and pretend like this deck is impervious to all those cards, because that is what I have to contend with when preparing for a YCS. So here I'm like, yeah, we're just talking. I don't even like drop the Veiler. I just say I have Veiler as my only interruption, and he has Call by the Grave. So there's no way we're winning this one, and we're just going to run it back because that was embarrassing. Not going to lie, that was not even remotely close. And I promise these games get better towards the end of this match. This game right here also is not going to be very good. I'm just going to put the one out there right now. So we use the die roll this time. His hand going first is going to be Nibiru, Fusion Destiny, Ancient Cloak, Tour Guide, Imperm. So 2 hand traps, Fusion Destiny to play 3 hand traps, and one of the best starters in the deck. That hand is pretty nice. And then our hand's going to be Emperor, Tactics, Squire, Dasher, and Nibiru going second. You really hate to see it. We just don't have a starter. I play a fair number of starters here. Like Gardner is a starter, obviously Fusion Destiny. I play Sangan. I play one more starter that I'm gonna keep a bit hidden for the time being. I'm not sure if it comes up in either of the later games. I don't think it does, but I'm just gonna keep that one a bit of a secret. It's not really that much of a secret, to be honest. But carrying on here, our Nibiru is not gonna be enough, by the way, because he has Fusion Destiny to just break through it, and we have no plays right now. So he's going to normal summon out Tour Guide and activate the effect for Graph. I get a little bit greedy here with my Nibiru, which is going to be a recurring trend as well, because I'm not thinking about the deck that I'm playing, as well as kind of just what the composition of my hands are. So yeah, he's going to go and send the Torrent Scales off the Carabini, and then go into the Rusty, and then bring back the Carabini off Seer. Here is where I should Nibiru. I decided to wait because I want him to commit more of his grave resources. But in a hand that's this bad, and in a deck that is also like not the greatest at like punishing the opponent, I do have to kind of just take the victories where I can. So like I let him get value for free. I think if I was playing a deck like Tribegate Lurlusk, this would be fine. Like if I was able to just kind of make him expend more resources, because again I don't know what's in his hand. Because he did all this of course off one Tour Guide, right? So like in a different deck, it's more defensible, but I think in this deck I just have to, hit pretty much the highest percentage chance of like the turn actually stopping, as well as, cutting off the most follow-up. So yeah, that was just really just a misplay, but ultimately it didn't end up mattering because again, he had Fusion Destiny. So the really the only thing that changed was like his acquisition of Fog Blades here, which obviously hurts, but it doesn't stop the fact that my hand is unplayable after he pops Nibiru, because the goal was to tribute summon Emperor over Nibiru, which is like one of the benefits of this as a hand trap going second. But that's now off the table, so I have to draw something really amazing against 5 interruptions right here. Would be 3 if I played the Nibiru correctly. So I mean, still it's pretty unlikely, but yeah, we don't have any plays anyways, so it did not matter. So that was another pretty sad game, but here's where things start to turn around ever so slightly. So. We're going to go first in game number, I guess technically 4, but game 2 of match 2. our opening hand is going to be Emperor, Dasher, Guardian, Sangan, and Fusion Destiny. So we have 5 combo cards, or I guess 4 combo cards in a brick, but you know, happens, right? And then his hand going second is going to be Shea Brigandine, Artifact Scythe, Fusion Destiny, E-Telly, and Call by the Grave. So he actually doesn't have a way into Rusty right now, or Carabini, but he has a couple of ways to kind of just try and put bodies on board to apply pressure. But notably, no hand traps, which is good. Yeah, so we're going to start things off with Garden. We're going to search for no Penguins. So we're going to go for a similar play like we did in, I believe, the first game. So we're going to go Emperor Chainlink 1, no Penguin Chainlink 2, bring itself back. And then we're going to go and summon a Polar Penguin. And then we're going to link summon into Hcabe, and then we're going to activate the effect summoning out Despot 1. And then we're going to summon out Auroradon here. And here's where things get interesting. So we're going to go into Hcabe Pitch. And if you recall the video that I made on Hcabe Pitch a couple of months ago, you'll remember that this actually searches Penguin Squire, which is a very, very cool option in this deck. So we're going to increase the level of Hcabe Pitch by 1, and then sync her off into Savage Dragon, which allows both of these effects to trigger. So we're going to equip and then burn as well as search. It's cool that we actually kind of have a win condition in time if it comes to it, but realistically these games have actually been very fast for the most part. Like I played a lot of matches against him yesterday, and they were pretty quick. Yeah, we got to follow up Squire, so we have Sangan Squire next turn as a push, which is great. And if you remember what I said earlier, we have this spare level 3 tuner as well as this non-tuner token that's also level 3. So you know what that means. We get to make the boss monster. See, this is a Penguin deck. So not only do Penguins help to kind of achieve this end board, but they also are part of the end board. So no one can tell me this is not a Penguin deck, despite the fact that we are, of course, abusing Fusion Destiny and Hcabe and Auroradon. But let's shove that one under the rug. So we can activate Fusion Destiny and an Enforcer, and then we're just going to pass. So we have 3 interruptions here and a fair amount of follow-up through Dasher follow-up. These 2, we have Celestial to draw if our hand gets emptied, and of course the Enforcer itself. 6-card Nibiru is going to be his top deck. That's just life sometimes. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and E-Telly into Psychic Wielder, and then he's going to set Shea Brigandine and then activate it. And here he hasn't activated a monster effect, which is one of the weaknesses of this card. It's not straight up just a quick effect. Your opponent had to activate a monster effect to flip up your Penguin Soldier and trigger it. So would this card be better if you could activate it whenever you wanted to on your opponent's turn? Yes. That is all I have to say. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and he's going to turn that into Link Spider and then go into Verite Anaconda. And then here I decided to just pop it. I mean, I could technically wait for him to use Verite and then Chain Brave, but that means that this is resolving, so like I have to contend with DPE already being summoned and then Penguin Soldier like activating to try and flip it up, or sorry, to banish those 2 with no Penguin Engrave, which would have given me an extra body, which is nice, but then I would have had to negate his Enforcer with the Savage and like run the risk of like the Celestial and Dasher coming up. So I just wanted to, stop the Verite while I could through just 1 card in the Enforcer. So I activate the Graveyard effect, and he's actually going to chain Call by the Grave here, and I do contemplate this. I'm like, I remember actually saying this in voice chat. I'm like, right, do I value having the DPE kind of cycling back every turn, or do I value preventing him from actually getting to his own DPE? Because that's realistically the only thing he can do at this point. I mean, he hasn't normal summoned yet, so I guess technically he could normal summon like a Torrent Scale or something, but if you normal summons like Torrent Scale and activates the effect, or like, activates Choigat effect, and then I have the Brave to stop that. So I'm like, really the only thing that like hard punishes me right here is going to be a hard drawn Fusion Destiny. So I actually decided just to let Call by resolve, because right here I have a lot of pressure anyways. I have good follow-ups in hand, so I don't need necessarily to have the Enforcer itself coming back to win. And lo and behold, he has a hard drawn Fusion Destiny, so I'm like, yeah, I made the read. Let's go. So he sets Scythe and then passes. We draw Tactics for turn, which, is pretty decent, but not really necessary here. We can go ahead and set Sangan and then summon out Squire, and then we're going to flip up the Sangan. This is like why these cards work pretty well together, because obviously Sangan works by itself to get into Hcabe, but additionally, if you draw these 2 together, they synergize quite nicely, because even though this effect will be negated on the field, since it's not a Penguin monster, if it goes to grave, that obviously doesn't matter. So like we can link these off into like Hcabe, so we can even make Brave if we wanted to with these 2. So we can get a lot of value just off these 2 cards. And that's kind of like what I built the deck around, is like standalone 1-card plays, but also cards that are good to draw with Penguin Squire. And that's kind of the whole concept of the deck, and then Fusion Destiny just backs it up. So yeah, that is the Cliff Notes version of my deck. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and Auroradon pop his Scythe, which obviously it's Scythe. It's going to be Sangan Chainlink 1, Scythe Chainlink 2 Engrave, and then Savage Chainlink 3. And then we're just going to add Ash off the Sangan because we can, and then we're going to proceed to battle phase and then just perform the lethal. So we're now going to move into game 3. That was the first game we won in 4 of them, but now it's the ultimate test. We're going to go into game 3 going second. So his hand going first is going to be Imperm, Hcabe Knight, Tour Guide, Psychic Wielder, and Artifact Scythe. So he's used Scythe 2 games in a row, but the rest of his hand is phenomenal, so not really too much to say here. And our hand going second is going to be Garden, Dasher for the 3rd game in a row, by the way. Gamma, Squire, and Nibiru. Yeah, I never said this deck was not prone to bricking. There's a lot of bricks in this deck. And I fully recognize this, but I mean, I do think that you have to raise the ceiling of the deck a bit, especially in a format that's as high powered as this one. If we were in a slower format, maybe even like last format, we could probably get away with deck building a bit differently, but I do think you have to kind of just go all out full combo, because if you don't, then you kind of lose. I was also testing a different build that was completely different, which I might showcase. It was what I kind of called 5-axis, and it like maxed out on Emperor and stuff, which was like kind of wacky. But that deck does not have enough room for defensive cards, so I scrapped it for this build, which has I think 15 defensives, which is pretty good. But anyways, he's gonna go first, of course. He has Tour Guide, Hcabe Knight, so I can't interact at this point. And I also get greedy with my Nibiru here, which we'll kind of talk about. But he's gonna link into Carabini and then trigger the graph that he linked away with to summon out the Seer. And then he's gonna link off for Rusty. He actually forgets Carabini when it's in the extra monster zone, but he's gonna remember afterward. So Seer bring back Carabini after going into Rusty. We're gonna Gamma the Rusty, which is pretty solid, because that means his only means of accessing PKs, given his current hand setup, is just activating this effect. And one PK is generally not gonna be enough to recover from this position, unless if you account for like obviously Verite and stuff. But yeah, he's gonna go ahead and actually send the Ragged Gloves off the Carabini, which sends Wing to bring back the Rusty. And I think he mentioned that he was like thinking about Rusty popping Breakstory, but he didn't have any PKs in Grave. So yeah, I think that was just a bit of a miscalculation on his end. But nevertheless, like this is like fine. I mean, I don't think he could have actually sent anything off Carabini PK wise that would have affected the board state that much, apart from send Silent Boots to search for Fogblade. By the way, I should have Nibiru'd on the summon of Psychic Wielder. I totally just wasn't thinking about Appaloosa at all. I just wanted him to like go through his Levier and his extra deck, just one more or one less thing I have to worry about. And then here I'm expecting him to just link summon into Verite, but he actually just makes Appaloosa on me, and now I'm in big trouble. So this should be 24 attack. I know it's like misrepresented here, but it gets fixed. Yeah, so we're gonna try Nibiru just because I want to lower the attack stat of this if I can. And then he's gonna pass. So we draw Fusion Destiny for turn, which is quite good, because going second, it allows us to have a backup plan when our Penguin engine, is kind of the main focus of trying to break through this board right here, which is Appaloosa plus Imperm. So we're gonna go ahead and activate Garden to search for the Polar Penguin, and I'm immediately gonna change this because this is not the right pick. So there was a game that I had previously against Tri-Brigade Lurlusk that I had on Dealing with Ladder one time. And I was like, oh, there was a point where it actually came up where I crashed the Polar Penguin into the 800 attack Appaloosa. So like what I would have to do is like force out one of these negations and then like summon this, crash, and then like use the Graveyard effect because it was destroyed by battle, so I can bounce another card. So like, that was cool. That came up in a previous game, but not here. So I reasoned that I need to get Emperor Penguin because the fact that I used Nibiru last turn means that this Appaloosa is actually on 16. So I can force it out with Emperor, or at minimum force out like maybe a sword, like Phantom Knight's sword that's back there. But yeah, we can go ahead and activate the effect of Guardian to reduce Emperor, and here I'm deciding if I want to pitch Squire or Nib. And even though the Nibiru is already known, I do want to keep this as a deterrent, like because even though it's known, like he still has to respect it. Or play around it in some capacity. So I feel comfortable in just like doing this play because I'm not going to get a lot of mileage out of Squire this turn regardless, because I plan on just normal summoning this card. Because if I just activate the effect in hand, it just gets negated and I can't do anything. So we're going to attack over Appaloosa. Here I'm just like trying to fiend for a Fogblade, but it doesn't end up having it. So we're going to go ahead and main phase 2 actually activate the effect of the Emperor, and then, or sorry, we were going to do that, but he decides to Imperm at the end of battle phase. That's right. So yeah, like the thought process was that like if he had Fogblade, this tributes for cost, so it's similar to like Rescue Cat. So basically the Fogblade would fall off and it wouldn't continue to negate this card. So he would have to commit Appaloosa to it, which would be pretty good. That at least in my opinion. So like the idea would be just Fusion Destiny afterwards, force out the last Appaloosa negation, and then pop his Rusty as soon as his turn came around. But none of that happened. He had Imperm instead, which is totally fine because we clear the Appaloosa through the battle phase, and then now we get to clear the Enforcer on our turn. So it actually worked out better for us this way, that he had Imperm over the Fog Blade. Plus Fog Blade would have given him more follow-up through the graveyard. So yeah, this was very, very good for us. So yeah, we're going to pass here. He draws his own Nibiru, and then he is going to activate the effect of Ragged Gloves to send the Ancient Cloak, and he's going to use Ancient Cloak to search for Torrent Scales. He didn't do this last time, obviously, because he normal summoned Tour Guide. So he's going to normal summon. I'm just going to pop the summon, and then declare the Graveyard effect, and then play passes back to us. Here we use the effect of Dasher and Draw Phase to summon out No Penguin, and you play so many monsters that like you kind of need to empty your hand somehow to try and make Celestial Resolve. Granted, here of course we don't really have a means of doing that because of the fact that Nibiru is just lurking in our hand, but not a big deal. Also, a cool synergy is the fact that Polar Penguin gets this other effect, the on special summon effect, off a Dasher too. So yeah, it works like with both the Dasher and the Enforcer itself, which is kind of neat, I found. So yeah, gonna go ahead and bring back the Enforcer, and then we're trying to play around Nibiru here. So I just aim for the maximum amount of damage, and then I think we were just talking about like the text in certain Penguin cards. But yeah, I'm gonna activate Emperor, and then I realized that this is probably not the one I want to summon. I'm gonna summon these two Squires, and I actually miscalculate here. I was convinced it was lethal, but this is actually not game. This is 77, and he's at 78. And this is 4 summons because I did No Penguin 1 in the draw phase, and then I did Enforcer Chainlink 2 because it special summons itself, doesn't like return to the field unlike something like Redoer, and then Double Squire is 3/4. So I went to battle phase and attacked. It would have been 77. Here like I was convinced it was Scythe, which is why I wasn't popping it, by the way, since he would have like activated Fog Blades earlier for sure, like even like another Imperm. But yeah. Here, yeah, I just had the Rita Nibiru. He had it. His next draw was Fog Blade, so it was unlikely that he was going to be able to win there. Because, like, I basically just don't pop with... As long as I don't pop with Enforcer, I'm fine. Because, like, I'm not really scared of anything, right? Because, like, if it's Fog Blade, I still have game. If it's Imperm or Droplet, I still have game. So it's like, if he just... if I did the 7,700 damage to him and I pass on this board, and then he draws Fog Blade and he sets it, I just don't pop it, and then play comes back to me, and I just attack for game there. So yeah, we had this game anyways, so that's good to see. And so therefore, we actually do take this match. So 2 matches here. We lost the first one, like it wasn't even close. And this one, we actually took it. And the Penguin cards definitely contributed to the win condition, at least as far as board spam is concerned. So you'll notice that the game plan of this deck is not, like abuse Penguin Brave plus Penguin Soldier, because I just think that game plan is not good enough right now. At least by itself. Like it's good enough if you have it as a supplementary to your end board. For example, in that second game where I had that with Savage and Enforcer, that's fine, I think. But yeah, if you're playing a card that like just hard loses to like Imperm or say normal summon Torrent Scale, special summon Psychic Wielder, overlay for Break Sword, and then like because there are times where you have like spare stuff on the board, because like if you go for example like the Gen X Undyne play, like you have Halka Fibrax, and then like that makes things awkward. Yeah, like I ran into this problem as well back in Zoo format, like Zoo could just like put up Zeus without ever activating a monster effect, and so like your Brave is never guaranteed to resolve there. Obviously, Brave is good into like other matchups, like if you can get it to just like do what you want it to. But I don't think like using that as like your primary means of disruption is the way to go personally. So like basically, this deck is designed to really just utilize the Penguins, namely Squire actually. Like Squire is like the main one, just as like an extra body to like facilitate other plays, and then like if Brave comes up, then you go for it. Like it's like more of a turn 2 option even, because like you can like summon Penguin Soldier after like both players have a few less cards to work with and the game stays a bit more simplified. Then Brave really shines because your opponent has to like commit into a play to actually help break your board, and then that's where Brave like really gets to do its thing. But yeah, I think this approach to the deck is like the best way to go about doing it. By the time this video goes up, registration won't have closed yet for the YCS, but it basically will have, and deck lists are due. So I'm not really making changes to this list, although I think this list is probably the best that it can be realistically, because I don't know, like I spent actually a fair amount of time in the past couple of days after like I kind of had time to just work on things and like theory out the build and stuff. So I'm not gonna say this deck's perfect, of course, obviously, but I think this is the best chance that I have to actually take down, you know, like Sword Soul, Phantom Knight, Bird Up, and Dogma Invoked. I played 2 matches of all of those decks except the Invoked deck. I only played 1 match of that deck versus my friend here. And the deck went 50-50 in all of those matches except the Invoked Automatica one where it just lost the 1 match that we played. So that is how many? That's 3 out of 7. So it's like fine, especially like considering these are probably the top 4 decks, or like they're vying for the top 4 spots in the format. So yeah, given that, I'm fine with it. Obviously, small sample size, but you know that's just kind of you know what can you do, right? All right, I've rambled on long enough here, so I might post 1 more match on Friday. Yeah, if I plan this out accordingly. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Always give feedback. And thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. More Penguin content on the way. PogChamp. But that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.